All right, let's get started with 1-3 quadratic equations. All right, so a couple skill objectives. We're going to solve quadratic equations by factoring, by the square root method, and completing the square, and then finally the quadratic formula. So 4 different ways to solve a quadratic. Okay, so the key is how do we choose which one to use? Okay, and then we're going to interpret some different solution sets. Okay? All right, so the quadratic formula is right here. If you haven't had that before, go ahead and write that down, and on we go. So, solving a quadratic equation. So we already know how to solve by factoring, so this should be just review for us. We can do this again. So our AC, negative 16, and our B, negative 6. Are there two numbers that multiply to negative 16 and add to negative 6? There certainly are. Negative 8 and 2. And over 1x, 1x, so we have 8, and we would have x plus 2. All right, so the new part here is that equals 0. So our goal on factoring, solving by factoring, is to get one side equal to 0. Because then we can say if either of these parentheses equals 0, x minus 8 equals 0, then the whole thing equals 0. Because what's 0 times anything? That equals 0. Right? So if we make this parenthesis 0, the whole thing is 0. Also, if we can make this parenthesis 0, then our whole equation is 0. So let's go ahead and solve both of them. Equals 8, or x equals negative 2. Okay, now just a quick reminder, this is an x squared problem, so there should be 1, 2 solutions, and we've got them both. All right, your shot. So how does this factor? We should multiply to x plus 5 and x minus 4. That equals 0. So x plus 5 equals 0. Or x minus 4 equals 0. So x equals negative 5. Or x equals 4. Okay, so just a little twist on this is that you have to have 0 on one side. Before you factor, we would need to deal with this negative 4. We can do that by adding 5. X squared minus x plus 9 equals 0. This factors x minus 3 times x minus 3 equals 0. So x minus 3 equals 0. Or 3 equals 0. So in both cases, we add 3. X equals 3. So this is what we call a double solution, because remember, in an x squared problem, you need to have 2 solutions, right? And we do have 2 solutions, but they just happen to be the same number. So we say x equals 3 is a double solution. And so x equals 3 is our only answer. All right, your turn. So we needed to get 0 on one side. So we're going to move every term on the right over to the left. Okay? And let's go ahead and factor this. This is a perfect square. So 3p minus 4 and 3p minus 4 equals 0. We FOIL this. 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 4 is 12. That gets us to 24 in the middle. So both of these get to be 0. And we don't need to write it twice. It'll end up being the same thing. P equals 4. P equals 4 divided by 3. Double solution. Okay? You can also call it a double root. All right, so solving a quadratic equation by factoring. So anytime you have 2 x's, an x squared and an x, you need to have them both on the same side. So same idea, you need 0 on one side. So let's minus 3x from both sides. 2x squared minus 3x equals 0. You see anything in common? I see an x in common. So pull the x out, and we're left with 2x minus 3 equals 0. And now we get to say both things equal 0. So x equals 0, 2x minus 3 equals 0. Solve this one. 3. And so when we divide by 2, x equals 3 over 2. And there's your two solutions, 0 and 3 over 2. All right, so square root property, anytime you're the one doing the square root, you need to write plus or minus, because remember, we need two solutions. All right, so go ahead and take a look at this problem. Now, this is the only time you do not need to get 0 on one side, is if you only have x squared, no x. So in this case, let's add 27 to both sides. We get 3x squared equals 27. First step is to divide by 3. X squared equals 9. Now, how do you cancel out squaring? You square root. We say x equals, since we're the ones that wrote the square root, we're going to write plus or minus 3. And there's our two solutions. Your turn. Nearly the same problem. Oh, sorry, it's not your turn. That's example 5. Let's do this together. 3x squared equals negative 27. So we would have divide by 3. X squared equals negative 9. So let's square root this. And so we would have x equals plus or minus 3i. No real solutions on this one, but we do have an imaginary solution. All right, now it's your turn. Try them both. All right, y squared minus 147 equals 0. So you're going to move it over. Y squared equals 147. Okay. All right, so what is the square root of 147? You put it into your calculator. And what spits out, if anything? Doesn't come out clean, so we need to try to break this down. Y squared equals, what goes into 147? How about 147 divided by 9? No. How about 147 divided by, let's go with 49. There it is. So this is 49 times 3. So y squared, oops, sorry about that. Let's see, equal to, or y is equal to, plus or minus 7 root 3. Okay. All right, and then b squared, we'll move this over, negative 64. So when we square root this, b is equal to plus or minus 8i when you square root both sides. Okay, we can do the same thing when you have the term being squared is inside of parentheses. We're going to immediately square root both sides, and so we would say x minus 2 equals plus or minus 4. This is probably easier if you write it as two different equations. X minus 2 equals 4, or 2 equals negative 4. And we'll solve this twice. We'll add 2, and we'll get x equals 6. X equals negative 2. We have down here. Okay. All right, so completing the square, I'm actually going to pause on this. We're going to go over this in class together. I want to make sure we have this worked out together, so we'll pause on that. Just one example. We'll come back to this, and we'll dive today into the quadratic equation. All right, so x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. Now, there's pros and cons to this. The con is that it's kind of tedious to work out. The pro is that it always works for every single quadratic. Anytime you have degree of 2 as your highest degree or your highest power, the quadratic will always work. So I'm going to write it down here. So you see it here, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So in this case, a is 1, b is negative 4, and c is negative 1. So we're just going to plug it in. X equals negative b negative negative 4 plus or minus b squared, 4 squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Clean this up. X equals 4 plus or minus square root of 16 minus a negative will give you a plus, plus 4 over 2. X equals 4 plus or minus the square root of 20 over 2. And 20 can be broken down into 4 and 5. We would get 4 plus or minus 2 rad 5 over 2. And since everything divides by 2, we would say x equals 2 plus or minus rad 5. There it is right there. All right, your turn. Give it a shot. Okay, x equals negative b. Let me write it over here. A is 1, b is negative 6, and c is negative 2. So negative b plus or minus square root of b squared for a c all over 2a. X equals negative 6 plus or minus square root of 36 plus 8 all over 2. So x equals negative 6 plus or minus the square root of 44 over 2, which is negative 6 plus or minus square root of 4 times square root of 11 over 2. X equals negative 6 plus or minus 2 rad 11 over 2. X equals negative 3 plus or minus square root of 11. Okay. All right, we'll try it one more time, and this is just a reminder that you need 0 on one side. So we're going to move this 4x over before we get started. So we'll say x squared minus 4x plus 8. A is 1, b is negative 4, c is 8 equals negative b minus square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And so we'll get x equals 4 plus or minus 16 minus 32 over 2. X equals 4 plus or minus square root of negative 16 over 2. That's 4 plus or minus 4i over 2. And so our answer is 2 plus or minus 2i for our solution. Your turn. All right. We'll move the 2x over. X equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X equals 2 plus or minus the square root of 4 minus 8 over 2, which is 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 4 over 2. And so we'll get x equals 2 plus or minus 2i over 2, or 1 plus or minus I. Okay. And these are the last ones. They are here. So last example. So we'll have x equals negative b plus or minus b squared minus 4ac all over 2a of x 4 plus or minus square root of 16 over 8. 16 minus 16 is 0. 4 plus or minus square root of 0. 8 is just 4 over 8 and a half. So this is our repeated root. Okay, so 1/2 repeated real root. This is that double root that we did in the first problem. All right, last one for you. Give this a shot. Equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared. I'm going to go straight to 36. 4ac all over 2a. This is 6 plus or minus the square root of 36 minus 36 over 18. 36 minus 36 goes away. So we have x equals 6 over 18, which is just 1/3 repeated root. All right, that's it for 1-3.